Now, there's concern surrounding thousands of jobs within the horse racing world because of a tax, which, if it goes ahead, could see up to 30 million hit across the Midlands when it comes to spend around racecourses, which, of course, will include Wolverhampton. To tell us more, I'm joined now by Brant Dunshea, Chief Executive of the British Horse Racing Authority. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Jason. Thank you for having me.
Well, good to talk to you. Now, obviously, a big employer in our city, Arena's racecourse in Wolverhampton, which is also having the addition of a dog track at the moment to sort of expand its offering, is part of a group which also has the interests throughout the UK. And when it comes to concerns surrounding this, they will no doubt be as worried as the British Horse Racing Authority.
Absolutely. This campaign that we're running presently in response to the proposal from Treasury to increase the tax on horse race betting is a campaign that's been developed collaboratively across the sport. So whilst the BHA are leading it, Arena Racing Company, the Jockey Club, all the major representative bodies are involved in developing this strategy, and it's an incredibly important one to us. I know you touched on it in the introduction, but just looking at the West Midlands alone, we've got 7 racecourses across the West Midlands, including Wolves, as you touched on, Utoxeter. And yeah, first 5 years, based on independent economic analysis, we're looking at a circa £30 million hit if the proposal to harmonise with the tax on online casinos and games of chance is affected. But more importantly, uh, we believe, based on that analysis, that there would be looking at a job loss in the order of around at least 275 jobs at risk in the first year alone, and that ranges from trainers to stable staff who are, dedicated to the welfare of our horses, right through to racecourse staff, including those that work in hospitality on the racecourses, but also your local cabbie who's running people to and from the racecourse and the city or train station. So it's a significant challenge for us, an unprecedented threat.
People may well still go out and spend the same amount of money, but they just won't go to where it's needed within the industry to help support those jobs, to make the events worthwhile going to. And you could suddenly start to see a decline in the offering you're able to bring because of these job losses, because the cash just isn't there.
Absolutely, that's part of the challenge. An increase in the tax on horse race betting will make our product less competitive with other products, and as a consequence, that would encourage uh, bettors to look at alternatives, such as alternative products or alternative places to engage in the horse race betting, like illegal offshore markets where there is no return to Treasury, to the Exchequer. There's no gambling harm processes in place to protect vulnerable gamblers. So the flow on through the broader economy is so significant that we say that the government just must seriously consider this before adopting any such proposal or proposed policy.
Mhm. Yeah, because it's currently sitting at 15%, which is, of course, the rate of VAT that we used to have before the increase that was put in place, I think, back in Margaret Thatcher's day, to offset the fact that people were paying council tax instead of their sort of poll tax. It was done to raise funds there, which was a response to a social requirement for cash at the time. And obviously, it only hit really products and services. The racing industry was excluded and retained its original tax rate. And there's obviously various tax rates across different products across the board. And where we've seen the sort of entertainment betting that people are able to do at home coming in at what we're looking at is 21% at the moment, their tax rate. And if you are then looking at mirroring that in other industries, it's a different type of gambling, isn't it? And as you said, there are efforts to avoid harms within the work that the BHA do and beyond. There's also the fact that it's a different product and it doesn't support people in the same way for the casinos compared to the way horse racing is there. Horse racing is
Yeah.
very much a community, isn't it?
Oh, it is very much so. And I think there are a couple of interesting points you raised there. The first one is that, of course, you talked about the 15 and 21%. The reality is that the duty that's paid on horse racing already is 25% because
Mhm.
there's a 10% levy that's paid on horse race betting in addition to the 15% tax. So should the base rate go from 15 to 21, that would be taking racing to 31%. So, um, yes, it would make us less competitive. But the reality is, you're right. There are such significant differences between horse racing and these other forms of gambling, and that's already reflected by government in terms of, there is a levy, there is a difference. They recognise that difference, and at the end of the day, horse racing is more than just a sport. It's a cherished part of our culture, our national heritage. It's the second most attended sport in the nation, around 5 million a year attend racing, horse racing. It's a major employer, bringing communities together, whether it's for a social day out, whether it's providing employment across local communities up and down the country. But importantly, it's been shown that betting on horse racing uh, is consistently been found to be a safer betting product in various gambling surveys than other alternatives. And ultimately, it already drives significant tax revenues to the exchequer, and uh, there are a whole range of reasons why we say that racing should be treated differently.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, racing is a game of skill. You can make judgments, you can look at form. Whereas what they're doing effectively here is comparing it to a game of chance, which is something which doesn't require years of training, understanding of genetics, and great breeding in the horses that we see out there, the thoroughbreds which we so often see running around the track in Wolverhampton. It's very different to electronically randomly generated reds and blacks.
We continue to highlight that point. It supports a whole economy. I mean, you think about the supply chains that highlight why racing is different. You think about the feed merchant that provides feed to the stable yards, the farrier, the veterinary services, the as I talked about earlier, the hospitality workers, the cab drivers. All these extended supply chains. It's a broader economy that racing supports up and down the country, and it's so important in local communities.
Mhm.
Whether it's Wolverhampton, whether it's Uttoxeter, whether it's, other parts of the country, racing is often the centre of, many community activities. As an example, I was recently in a cab going from the train station to Doncaster racecourse, and the cab driver just emphasised how important racing was to his
Mhm.
business. Cost of living crisis at the moment, people weren't getting cabs home from the pub on a Saturday night, but they were getting cabs to the train sta to the race course. So,
Mhm.
it's an extended economy.
Yeah, absolutely. And whether you say looking at Wolverhampton, staying locally, you maybe head somewhere as far afield as the likes of Chester, or
Yeah,
maybe head down south. There are also, I mean, Worcester's another regular
yeah,
haunt from us here in the Midlands as
absolutely.
well. It is about a sport which is, yes, it's got people who are its knockers, but you've also got the fact that you've got amazing animal welfare. You've got people looking after these animals that they love, that are part of the industry that they love. And whilst there are many different opinions surrounding all sorts of these things, you've got a track record which you can prove. And when somebody's gambling, yes, when the fun stops, you stop. You need to be gamble aware. There is all that support there, and the industry itself acknowledges that and will again endeavour to ensure people do not overstretch themselves. Yes, it is difficult to do, but it is something which, literally, industry leading in that. So, where can we go to see how we can join this campaign to keep the level of taxation where it is now, rather than extending it further and putting so many jobs at risk from the report that you've put together?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jason. Look, one really important point I just want to touch on that you mentioned there was around the welfare. any loss in revenue to the sport will impact on the spend that we currently make to welfare initiatives, which we spend an enormous amount of money. Tens of millions have been spent over recent years in relation to improving equine welfare. But to answer your question, people who want to, they love their day out at the races, they support the industry, can go to our website, or follow the hashtag Axe the Racing Tax, and you can find ways there to support us. Um, we will be hosting an event in Westminster on the 10th of September, a day where we've taken a decision to reallocate fixtures and make it a no racing day. We'll be convening this event to bring together leaders from across the country, both administrators, but also jockeys, trainers, etc., to make it very clear to government the potential consequences if they take this policy decision. But immediately for your listeners, get onto the BHA website, look up, axe the hashtag axe the racing tax. You'll see there are ways you can support, writing to your local minister. There's other avenues, including a petition. But I'd encourage everyone to get onto our website, look at options and ways you can support the initiative. We're going to campaign hard right through to the autumn budget period on this.
AxeTheRacingTax.com as well. There is a petition there you can sign if it's something that interests you. Obviously, as I said, I have a vested interest for the fact that I work at Wolverhampton Racecourse as well. So, this is something which does affect people in our city, and there are many hundreds of people whose jobs are all part of that economy.
Exactly, great example of how far, our sport extends.
Mhm.
You work at Wolverhampton, but right across the city, the community, there'll be people that are supported by the sport.
Well, Brandon Shea, Chief Executive of the British Horse Racing Authority, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Jason.